Let's talk a little bit about the psychology of you, the viewer. Humans in general, but it's observations I've made over many years of being a YouTube content provider. And I've tried a whole myriad of things. Do they respond to this? Do they respond to that? They respond a little bit to this. Okay, well, let me give them more of that. Oh, they don't respond to it now. What happened there then? Are they saturated with that? Are they bored of that now? What else are they looking for? Are they so flighty that they've got to keep looking for different stuff all the time because they get bored so easily? Yeah. I've made videos that I thought were pretty rubbish in the past, and I thought, well, you know, there's all sorts out there, and so if a handful of people find it moderately interesting or beneficial, what is it to me if it's rubbish? If someone says this video is rubbish, then, you know, another person will say, oh, thanks for the video, yeah, really great, got me thinking. So I've put up these videos which are considered to be rubbish, and they have been received better than average, and I'm like, I'll never work out the masses. I won't. There's too many variables. There's too many things that come into play. And what I do know is that in the past I was more simple. And you see, I've been doing this for 15 years, some of you will know, and I've had many channels, and on previous channels, one of them I had like 20,000 subscribers. On one video alone I had 250,000 hits on my transcendental meditation video, which brought in thousands of subscribers. But I've been banned, I've had my channels taken down many times, and every time I have a channel taken down, of course it means that I've had 3 strikes, so I've had many strikes, so I'm shadow banned. The things with Google, they allow you to start again with a new channel, but they put the breakers on, and so that's obviously what they're doing with me, because I've got nearly 900 videos on this channel, and you know, I've only got about double that subscribers. So what I get, like 2 subscribers for every video I put up, the numbers don't add up really, do they? And you know, the subscribe increase is, it really just trickles in, you know, 1 or 2 a day or that sort of thing. And of course, you know, when I put up the last video about my encounter with the police in the graveyard, and I so-called, what they said to me, enlightened them about the ramifications of things, they walked away thanking me for enlightening them. Well, YouTube. YouTube. Sounds right, actually. YouTube. Yeah, YouTube struck me for that. And all I was saying was speaking very civilly, of course, to the police, because somebody called them out because I was doing yoga in the graveyard in my shorts, and they found that very offensive. But the police said, well, yeah, there's not a law against it. I mean, some people, you know, have an issue with it, and I went, some people have an issue with everything. You know, we can't constrain and govern our lives because one person may have an issue with what you do. We've got to be reasonable. And they went, oh yeah, that's it, but you know, we've been called, and so we have to come out and see what's going on. I said, yeah, okay, I appreciate it. Anyway, we got talking about COVID, and you know, I gave them a few tips, and they were very happy. And they went, yeah, we're starting to hear things like this. And then they asked me, is this true? What do you think about that? And it was a great conversation, but YouTube wasn't having any of it, and so it struck me. And so he's very curious. And then I made other videos and I said, look, I can say abominable things about Christians or Jesus and, you know, things like that. But you can't say a single word against a swarthy-skinned, black-bearded folk. You know, you can't say barely anything remotely derogatory. And some people would be really surprised. But in Britain, you know, we've become very fascist, or at least this government is at this particular time. And this government has been putting thousands of British subjects in prison just for vocalising their opinions on that particular religion. And one guy, he was like 75 years old, and he wrote in a tweet, F Allah. And the cops came round, arrested him, and he got 18 months. Can you imagine, people? 18 months. They're letting real criminals out because the prisons are overcrowded and they're finding room for people that say things like that. So you see that, you know, they have massive agendas about certain things. And they've still got a massive agenda about COVID because it's been very, very embarrassing to them. And there's no way that they ever want to concede that they made massive mistakes. But one good thing that I was listening to yesterday, and it was a very popular, I think it's GB News or something, the guy on that was speaking about what Trump's intentions are in relation to COVID, and he said that Trump is going to out it all, and he's going to bring all the relevant parties to task, and he's looking at, you know, putting people in prison for touting this nonsense and this thing that was this thing, not the so-called virus that people had to believe in. You know, there's propaganda whereby people were saying, act as if you have it. Act as if you have it, because you might have it. Well, goodness me, if you've got to act as if you have a virus, what sort of a virus is it? A propaganda virus. Oh my goodness. Anyway, GoogTube are still very hot on the trail of anybody, you know, bringing that to light. And so can't say anything about that. Can't say anything about swarthy-skinned folk. Can't say anything about all the fighting-age men coming into our countries and, you know, getting paid trillions and all. Look, the world is fucked. You know the world's fucked, people. Some of you know the world's fucked. But this video isn't about that. This video is about your perception, and so over the years I've been putting this up and putting that up, and you know, then I've been going, oh my god, you know, you guys, you're dead, you're deaf, dumb and blind and all this sort of thing. And then I've evolved more and I've realised that, you know, consciousness is very, very vast, and many people are in actual fact unconscious. They are not consciously aware. They invariably never ever turn their minds inside to look what's going on like a philosopher would, or a psychoanalyst. They just don't do that. They are automated. They just continue with their programs throughout their whole lives, and so they don't see things. And so what happens is, people, when we wake up, all of a sudden, like it says in the Bible, the scales will be removed from your eyes and you'll see the world clearer. And that's what happens. That's exactly what happens when we have a spiritual or enlightening experience or a deep traumatic experience, whatever. There invariably is a shift in our consciousness, and all of a sudden the light switched on. That's what it's like. It's like everybody's light bulbs and they're all milling around without the power being switched on. As soon as the power is switched on, then they become enlightened, and then all of a sudden they can see clearly. You see all these metaphors, and it's perfectly true. And so when it happened for me, then I just, you know, instantly saw so much about the world. And then incrementally, you know, because there's so many ways in which we can wake up. We can wake up from a shocking event where our ego is absolutely just obliterated, and there's barely a semblance of the ego remaining. And so we slip into a deep depression with lethargy, and we can't do anything, and this, that, and the other. And then the light starts to get switched on slowly. You know, my spiritual awakening happened like that. With the whole traumatic thing, with the ego implosion, it was a gradual thing. It wasn't just, poof, I can see clearly now overnight. No, I was being shown a whole myriad of things throughout all these 15 years. But along the journey, I started to meditate, very, very at the beginning, and now I've been meditating 15 years, and I've had many very, very powerful meditative experiences. And when you meditate, then that incrementally increases your consciousness. Like David Lynch is always saying, if you want to go full-size consciousness, then, you know, you don't meditate. But if you don't want to go full-size consciousness, then you do meditate, and your consciousness will expand ever increasingly. When it does, then your perception expands, and the facility of your brain functioning in its perfect state increases exponentially. And so you can think better, you can think clearer, you eradicate all the nonsense, chitter-chatter that some people have in their minds. And then when you do this, you're in a position to, just when you want to think about something, you turn your thinking on. And then when you don't want to think about anything, you turn your thinking off. But the automated people, they don't know anything about this, and they've got all these programs rattling around incessantly. That's why they're always exhausted, they're niggly, they are easily manipulated and terrified by the propaganda. They're easily coerced, and all the rest of it, because their mind is just filled with programs. But when we become awoken, enlightened, then the programs all start to fall apart. They just don't work anymore. The programs just don't work, because we look at things, we go, that don't sound right, that don't look right. You know, what you're saying here, what you say, hang on, let me look into that. And you just all of a sudden, you become conscious like a normal human being, you know, rather than a zombie. When we look at things then, when we are awakened, stroke enlightened, there's varying degrees of being awoken, you see. And but when we are either of those, then our perception is massively opened. When we take entheogens, then again our perception is massively opened. And then if you practice astral projection or lucid dreaming, hypnosis, or the human psychology, and all these different sorts of things, then your consciousness is expanded again and again and again, and it's seemingly never ending. And then, of course, coupled with a massive amount of global experience with all different sorts of scenarios and things, well, you have an awesome amount of information, and you see things that people don't see. And so when I put up videos, and I'm like, oh, I'll put up some retro videos, because some of them say they like the retro videos. And when I put up these retro videos, then there is barely a single comment on them, barely a thumb up, and barely a view, to be quite frank. And so it's kind of like, well, you know, so what is it they're looking for then? You know, for instance, look, there's videos that, you know, some of you, there's about 50 of you that have watched these videos, and you see an interaction with me and a cute little monkey. And he wants his food, and it's trembling, and I'm speaking and I'm enjoying it, and, you know, the guide I'm with, the Gambian guy, we're enjoying it, and it's a wonderful thing. But what do you see? Nothing. Nothing which you don't state anything. You don't indicate that you saw anything. It's just a monkey with the person, and that's it. You've seen it a billion times before. But you know what I'm always saying, and what my videos are always depicting, you haven't really seen it. You haven't heard it, and you haven't felt it. You just thought you did, because somewhere in your consciousness, in your egoic consciousness, there is a memory of monkeys, and you know what monkeys are. You think you know what monkeys are. This is what the ego does, you see. The ego tells you, oh, that's a monkey, you don't have to worry about that, because the ego is always looking out for things that you should be afraid of. That's the primary job of the ego, is to look for things in a self-preservation manner which are going to be a threat to the body, which then, if the body gets affected, then the ego gets affected. You see, the ego is an autonomous energy. It's an entity residing in your body, and it's like it's an egregore, a tulpa, this sort of thing. It's something that's become conscious through the massive input of information. You see, the human brain receives all this information, the senses receive all this information, and where does it go? Well, it goes into the brain. Well, you know, there are agencies which deal with the brain, and there's, you know, the ego primarily, which will deal with the information coming into the brain, but the body deals with an enormous amount of information, and it regulates all the different sorts of hormones that the body needs to regulate. It'll regulate many things depending on what information comes in, and if, you know, the ego is telling that the body is afraid, then the body regulates the cortisol levels accordingly, you know, to what we require as per the fight or flight, and all these different sorts of things. So there's a whole mass of things going on that we as human beings, we don't comprehend. We don't know anything about our biology, most of us. We don't know anything about our psychology. We don't know anything about philosophy. We don't know anything about sociology. We really don't know anything about anything, and we don't know anything about consciousness. All these sort of things, and so there's a great deficit with most human beings. So what do most human beings do? Well, they've gathered up information throughout their life and experience. So the body and the ego store that information up, and then they're always looking on red alert, looking for something which you know, is a potential benefit to them, like a food source, or they're looking for a threat. So basically, food, or sex, or threat. That's basically the machinations going on in the average Joe. So when they look at my videos, they click on them, and they just see, for instance, there's one video where myself and my guide, we get bogged down in loose sand, and then one of the truck drivers with all of his team on board these big trucks stop to tow us and push us out. Now, all these guys, they're on... they're getting paid by the truckload. Some of you will remember I posted a video whereby there's about, you know, 15 guys shoveling sand into these, you know, very high, you know, sand carrying trucks, and then they deliver the sand to builders who are building. You know, that's what the sand's being used for, and they get paid by the load, and then it's distributed between the 15 guys. So 15 guys with shovels, you know, banging in the sand. It's an enormous amount of shovels, you know, when you've got, say, like, I don't know, 30 ton of sand or something like that. So, you know, I'm booked in and I'm doing this, and everyone's laughing and having a good time. Well, there's hundreds of these trucks going down to this beach-fronted area, which, you know, it's just like an open sand quarry, and they just dig the sand out and they use it for the building. They don't bother washing it or filtering it or grading it, anything like that, because it's Gambia, you know, it's poor. But these people, they stop, and they saw, you know, somebody in need, so they all jump out, and nothing is really said. Nothing is like, oh, what's going on here, or can we help, or nothing like that. They just jump out with the shovels and the ropes and all this different sort of thing. And I was just filming it. And so what did you guys see? Well, there's 4 thumbs up and not a single comment. And so it's kind of like, well, you just saw, you know, about 6 guys pushing the car. And it's like, yeah, you know, you've seen people get stuck in sand, gravel, snow all your life, no big deal, move on, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. But for those of you who are awakened and enlightened, you'll look at that video and something else will say, what is there to see there? There's a lot going on there, there must be many things to see there. What can be perceived from this video? And So then the still mind, the awakened mind, will go, well, okay then, well, that's a different culture to mine. Many different things happening. Look at this road. Instead of it being tarmac and perfect, it's just about 10 inches deep in soft sand. You know, very curious. And so, goodness me, how people live in places like that. And then when people get stuck, they don't have AA, they don't have the RAC, they don't have, you know, a truck to call to come to get them out of the shit. They don't have that facility. So what do they have? Well, they have a nation of people who are prepared to help. And so when anybody's in any trouble, they know that the people in trouble are poor and they don't have any facilities. And so the only facility that they do have is their fellow man. So that's what this video is depicting, people. It's depicting how Gambia was a beautiful place of jovial, helpful, kind, free people that weren't under pressure and didn't need to get to somewhere, or they don't have time to stop there for this person who's just had a smash. Oh, they've got to break down cover. You know, the ambulance will become, I'm sure somebody else is called, the police or the ambulance. Oh, I've got to get to work. I'm 2 minutes late. My boss is going to be kicking my ass. Or, oh, I've got so many things to do. I've got to go shopping. I've got no time to stop to help these people. Look at the mentality. That's what that's why I put this video up there, people. Are you getting a little bit of this? And then, you know, some of you will go, oh, I get it now, Aaron. You need so many things pointing out. Why do you need all these things pointing out? Because you haven't had experience in your life. You haven't really had experience. You haven't been to these third world countries. You haven't seen how other cultures work. You haven't seen how life is so very cheap. And, you know, in some countries, like in Ghana, when I lived there, you know, quite a different mentality where people would die in the street and people just will walk over them and buy them, you know, for almost a day until, you know, someone looks around and goes, is anyone going to do anything about this? Because they don't have a facility whereby you can call the police to come to take it away, because they won't, or the ambulance to come to take it away. And so what these people have to do, people have to roll up the dead body in a carpet or something, and they'll put it on a vegetable trolley and someone will push it, you know, 5 miles to the morgue, but the morgue's full because nobody's ever claimed the bodies because nobody can afford to bury them. And so then the government just get a big digger and dig a huge hole on some land somewhere, and then they pile all the bodies into it, and that's how it is, people. But you know, it's beyond your perception and conception, isn't it? Because you haven't had the experience, and so it's down to experience. It's down to a vast amount of experience. When we have a vast amount of experience, then we wake up to the degree of the experience. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a spiritual awakening. It's an egoic awakening. It's a human awakening. We wake up to what the fuck is going on this planet. So then I put up a video of me having a jovial conversation with a female friend, and that one has been received the least. Many of you have a problem with that video, and I wonder what the problem is. You just don't seem to be able to free yourself of your projections, of your biases, of what you think's going on there. You know, you think that, oh, I'm acting like this, or I'm demeaning, or I'm this, or I'm that. You can't see that there's 3 people there, the cameraman, myself, and the lovely Colette, who was a beautiful soul. And, you know, we had a relationship whilst I was there, and it was a beautiful relationship, and she was a beautiful soul. And so we're having a little bit of banter, and, you know, I'm making fun of her. They're saying, she's Chinese. She must be Chinese, because she had eyes which are a little bit pointed like this, which is quite rare for African people. And she says, no, I'm not Chinese. No, I'm not Chinese. I'm, you know, I've got big eyes. Can't you see I've got big eyes? This sort of thing. Nobody appreciated that. I think you had too many negative ego projections, and yeah, whatever you thought about that wasn't coming from a kind place. When all what was happening in that video was kindness, and you know, I am engaging with these people who love the engagement with the English people, because the British colonised the Gambia, and so the Gambians have got the greatest respect for the British because they helped them in so many ways, and they still do today, financially, this, that and the other. And so when holidaymakers go there, such as me, and they hire them, and, you know, they have a relationship with them, this and the other, it helps them out financially. So they love that, they love the engagement, they love to learn something, they love to see, you know, the British people, you know, come into their country, and all this different sort of stuff, but nobody appreciated anything about that. In actual fact, you had the adverse effect, didn't you? What else is there? Then there's one in the cattle market with all the goats and everything like that, and all the vultures and all this sort of thing. Absolutely nothing said. Absolutely nothing said. And so I just can only assume that you're not seeing anything. You're not. What we see, how your minds work is like this. What's that? Dirty Africa. Oh, animal skins on the floor. Oh, vultures up in the sky. A big pile of bones. Because you've been so desensitized from how life is. You know, they're there, the slaughterhouse is there, they're just like butchering up all the animals and everything, cutting off the horns, putting them on a pile like that. And if any of the cows are with child, then they'll pull the cow out and they'll throw it out and just sling it out onto the dirt, and all the vultures will come down to tear it to pieces. Can you imagine? You know, these calves, you know, can often be about this big. You know, maybe even bigger, I don't know, but the ones I saw, you know, were like babies that were being just slung out, you know, seemingly completely callously, but that's just a way of life. You know, the cows are for the slaughter, and that's just how it was happening. But did any of you think about that? Did any of you contemplate? Did any of you put yourself there? In my position, what I was seeing, what I was feeling, what I was smelling, you know, what I was learning about that realm. No, some of you even, you know, have the nastiness to say, oh, all these videos are just about you showing off. I'm like, what part of me feeding the monkey, you know, bringing a bit of joy and sharing something with a beautiful caged wild animal, what part of that did you think was me bigging up my ego? You know, normal people should have seen a beautiful interaction of me laughing and having joy, and then the guide laughing as well, and the antics of the monkey, and that interaction. Have you ever fed monkeys like that? Have you ever been in such close proximity like that? Or have you just looked at a monkey through a 2-inch glass plate in a zoo? You know, this is the difference, people. This is the difference. And then there's one where I'm holding up a python. I put this up months ago. You know, I'm holding up a 12-foot python. The fucking snake's like this. And I've got it wrapped over my shoulders like that. And barely a single comment or thumb up. Why? Oh, it's a snake. Everyone's seen snakes, Aaron. Yeah, you know. And that's it. That's as far as you go. That's as far as your minds, your hearts, and your consciousness go. You can't come into my consciousness. You can't be in that place. You can't say to yourself, what would it be like to hold one of those snakes? What do those snakes feel like? Would I be scared? What would the feeling be like? Goodness me, to have this, you know, really, I'd be terrified. And always, oh, I can't watch that. Oh no, I can only watch puppies and kittens on TikTok. Yes, that's what's happened to the Western world, you see. And that's why you're so dead and you're so dull. And these people, every single one of them, happy and just vibrant and full of life. And that's all you get from around these African countries. And so who is the most evolved? People in the Western world think they're evolved. They're absolutely fucking devolved. They're devolved to such a degree, it's just... Obviously, the human being is teetering on the edge of destruction. Now, let me say something else now, because one of the videos I put up, one of the retro videos, but it wasn't about my excursions in Africa, I said this. I said, do you feel a pervasive sadness and that you don't feel like you belong on Earth? And there was 11 thumbs up on that one, and 4 comments, you know, out of 56 views. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, so I think I'm touching on a point now. now, don't I? I think I'm touching on a point. Now, why is it that out of all those videos I put up yesterday, about 12 videos, that one has the most thumbs up? Because you related to that the most. Why? Because of your pain and your suffering and your sadness. So can you see how things are? Can you see why I put these videos up? Can you see why I contrast these videos, people? You know, what's going on here is something very, very intellectual that is above the vast majority of you, unfortunately, because you don't see how I'm contrasting these things. I'm contrasting the potential for joy, then I'm contrasting the potential for your fear. And I'm asking you, which ones of these do you like the most? And invariably, it's always the ones about the fear. It's always the ones about the suffering. And the rants, the vicious, you know, verbal, you know, disgusting rants, calling everyone a fucking vermin, cunt, tosser, and this, that, and the other, all, they're the most favourable. What's going on, people? What's going on? And yet, if I sat down to look at a flower, or to look at a small creature, or to spend a bit of time with a monkey, then nobody's interested in that. Why? Because you can't feel it, because you're not in touch with your love. You're not in touch with the joy of life. You are depressed, whether you know it or not. The vast majority of human beings are depressed. They're so full of anger, they're so full of anxiety, they're so riddled with fear and potential of terror, that their minds and their hearts and their souls are dull. You become dull, dead, dodos, zombies, people. That's why Hollywood creates all these videos about zombies and devils and demons and that, because they know where your psyche's at. Maybe they're responsible for putting it there, but most certainly they know exactly where it's at. And they're showing you the future. Zombies, ah! You know, the Brad Pitt movie, whatever it's called, zombies running all over the place, all this sort of thing. Well, it's happening now. It's happening now. That's a caricature, that's a parody of the world today. Zombies running all over the place with no heart, no conscience, no soul, no love, nothing. Now, another video, I said, beware of the trap which has been laid for us, or beware of the trap which has been laid to capture your mind. And I'm speaking about an invisible web as a metaphor, which is being cast by the evil powers over the world to ensnare you in its thread. And everybody's struggling like flies in a spider's web. They can't get off of all the binding that they've been bound to. They've been bound to their jobs, they've been bound to their mortgage, they've been bound to their partners, they've been bound to societies, they've been bound to rules, they've been bound to regulations, they're bound. Everybody, they've got a billion threads of spider's web on them, and all they can do is scream and feel terror. And that's why this picture, the scream, which is, oh, that one, it's so massively popular, because it just depicts the root of human psyche. It really does, the root of human psyche. Now, someone in contrast sent me a video, and it was an incredible, beautiful video about some native tribesmen doing all different sorts of dancing together. They've got a unity, they've got a community, it's absolutely fantastic. And then they depict the fucking mountains. It's kind of like it's in the fucking Himalayas somewhere, a billion miles away from the modern world, and they're all living and all thriving, and they're all working together. They're like bees or ants. They've got this massive unity together, and they're all connected with the stars and the gods and everything, the spirits. You can see it in their eyes. It's absolutely incredible. Hopefully I'll remember to put that video in the link. For any of you that are interested, ask for the fucking link, right? And then, you know, you see, when I looked at that video, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm looking at everything. I'm feeling it. I'm with it. I'm like, they've got it. They've got it. They know where it's at. Yeah. Why do I know that? Because I know it. You see, you guys, the vast majority of you, when you're watching my videos, next. Why don't I captivate you? Because you don't know it and you haven't got it. You're empty, you're void, you're dull. You see? And I'm not per se being demeaning, derogatory here, people. I'm just trying to wake you the fuck up. Just trying to get you to think about a little bit of something. Because you're all trapped in your egoic projections. All you're ever doing is projecting, projecting, projecting. Let me give you another scenario. Years ago, when I was younger, I started travelling around the world, and I'll come back with photos, and sometimes I'll have photos of girls, but invariably there'd be many photos of the beautiful landscapes and all the wonderful places that I've experienced on a cultural, excursion. That was why I went there, to experience the culture, and it was nice to have a different girl from a different culture. So of course I would engage in that as well. But when I would show my friends the photos, they would go flick, 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 and I'm like, oh, that's this, that's that, flick, flick, flick. Oh, wait, what's wrong with you? And it's kind of like, I'm looking. What were they looking at? What did they pause on? Oh, if there was ever any pictures of any girls, any, vision of any cleavage or any ass or anything like that, they were just looking for tits and ass. Flick, 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 tits and ass, tits and ass, tits and ass. Because that was where they were as young men. They weren't looking for the culture. They weren't looking for the experience. They didn't want to have an in-depth conversation about what I learned or experienced over there. No, it was all about them, their drivers, which is fucking testosterone. They're looking for tits and fucking ass, people. And so you are looking for something. Most of you are looking for something either which attracts you to it or which repels you. Now, we're all different, and so some people are attracted to fear and other people are repelled by it. Other people are attracted to beauty and other people are repelled by it. You see, beauty, when I used to speak about meditation, how you can get into the kingdom of God and how this world will open up and this, that and the other, most of you are so lost that that's a billion light years away from where you are. And so there's no point in you looking at that shit. So you just want to look up, how can I get out of hell? How can I scratch my way out of this coffin where I've been buried alive in hell, where the wailing and gnashing of the teeth reside? That's where you are. That's where your psyches are. I swear to God, that's where it is. That's what I see. Pain, suffering, anguish. And, it is very, very telling, and it's very, very disturbing and scary from a psychological perspective for someone that can see into it, how it's going. Wow. So one of them that I put up yesterday, it said, let us look at the pentagram symbol and what it can mean. Again, giving you the opportunity as a metaphor. The pentagram, okay, well, we all know what the pentagram means when it's got one prong pointing up. It means good. When it's got 2 points pointed up, when it's the inverted pentagram, when one point is facing down after the 5, right, one point is facing down, Aleister Crowley type of thing. Oh, it's evil, it's negative, and this, that, and the other. But if you looked into Satanism, then Satanism's emblem is the inverted pentagram. And they will tell you that the inverted pentagram is truth and it's life. Because the regular pentagram, which is supposed to depict in all that's good and true in the world, doesn't. Because it pertains to religion, it pertains to the fiction and the propaganda of the world. Well, when we become awoken, when we become enlightened, when we become consciously enriched, then we can see through all these symbolisms, and we can see how they're all being used to manipulate us and terrorize us and this, that and the other. And that's why people, when they wake up, like the Satanists or people like that, they go, fuck you motherfucking controlling cunts. No, we know what this symbolism really means, and so we turn it upside down, because the upside down version is the fucking reality. And all we have to do to discover this is we go back to the very, very beginning of Judaism, and we look in the Garden of Eden in Genesis, and we discover that there was this manipulative God, and he said to Adam and Eve, you don't get eating the fruit from that tree of knowledge, right? You're not supposed to know knowledge, motherfuckers, because you're going to stay down there like pigs in a fucking pen, right? But then when Satan, who's supposed to be the evil motherfucker that's caused so much trouble on this fucking planet, he just says, listen, he's a lying motherfucker. If you eat from it, you won't die, right? You will become knowledgeable. Just like those motherfuckers, they don't want you to do that. That's the last thing they want you to do. That's the whole fucking premise of that fucking story with the serpent and the fucking fruit from the forbidden tree, people. You know, wake the fuck up. From the very, very beginning, it was all about control. And so when we look at Satan, we ask ourselves, well, you know, what's the wrong in Satan? You know, nothing, there's no wrong in Satan. He just gives you opportunity. He just gives you your choice. And he allows you to have freedom. He allows you to have freedom to do whatever you want. And you use your own conscience to do it. Yahweh, Jehovah, never blessed us with that. In actual fact, he cursed us because Satan gave it to us. Go figure, people. So this is what's going on in the vast majority of people's minds. They're all inverted with the propaganda. We have to wake the fuck up. Now, this video already, I'll say myself, this is coming from the cosmos, people. This is the very, very powerful video. And if you can really get into the root of this, if you can get into the emotion, if you can get into the depth of consciousness, where I'm coming from and what I'm delivering to you, if you can absorb this and embody it, well, in an instant, you'll be awoken or enlightened and you'll see the world vastly different. But things don't work like that. It's a very, very slow progression in most instances. Sometimes you can take some energy and some push, all of a sudden you'll see the world in a very, very different way, and you'll feel in a very different way also. But you know, it's horses for courses, and you know, some of you have done this and many of you haven't. So that's why when I put all these videos, I just get a shocking response. Just a shocking response. A shocking response even to the amount of people that want to watch them. They're just saying, oh, not that old stuff. I know all that. I know what the Awakened Brave knows. Oh, I've seen them all before. And, you know, yeah. All this sort of thing. You know, it's remarkable because when I put up a modern video, you out there, you're like, oh, okay, this one's a new one. What does he know now? What's he telling us now? And there's a whole lot more intrigue. But in many of these videos, you know, the message is the same. Because it's coming from the same place, people. And it's just like being delivered, you know, in maybe coming from a face that doesn't look so believable because he looks so young, so handsome, so charming. He can't possibly know anything. But he did. He did, people. And so, you know, that could be another thing. If people, you know, looked at that, you know, and think like, oh, this person's not a guru. Who does he think he is? He can't know anything. You know, no, I need to look at people with long, fucking, flowing grey beards. And they need to sit there with a sheet and go, oh, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah. That's what, and thousands of people flock to these cunts, but they won't look at these videos. They're not ready. They're not ready. There's too much light here. It blinds people. It really does. My light blinds motherfuckers. It's just too much. And I know it's too much because in the old days when I was putting up, you know, mediocre videos, they were like people like flies on shit. Flies on shit on mediocre stuff. Yeah, mediocrity. I was just learning, I was just observing. You know, my eyes had been opened, the scales had been removed, and all of a sudden I was looking at this and I was looking at that, and I was observing this, and every single day there was 20 new things that I was making videos about. And they were all, you know, with the lower echelon of people waking up. But now, you know, I'm out there and, you know, you yourselves, you know, you look at me and you'll speak about a fine line between genius and madness. You don't know where I reside, and you're thinking that, well, I'm half. I've got one leg in both. I've got one leg in the completely insanity camp, and I've got another leg or in the genius camp, because there's things that you can't comprehend. There's a wildness, there's a scariness, a spookiness, there's the darkness, there's the depth, there's the brightness, whatever it is. That's That's all what's going on in the mind of the awake and brave, yeah, because he's in that. He's channeled that. And then one of the viewers says to me, "Are you Jesus?" And I'm like, all awoken people are Jesus, because we share the Christos, which is Christ consciousness. You see, Christ wasn't a name. Jesus wasn't a name. You know, there is written symbolism for the anointed one, for the Messiah, you know, for the cosmic spirit. That's what those names mean, people. And those names are thousands of years old. You can find them throughout history in many, many cultures. Krishna, look at Krishna and Christ. Say no more, people. So yes, I am the Christ. Yes, I am God, and potentially so are you. But you know, I'm always very, very reserved about saying that, because you will never be realised. You will never be self-realised God consciousness until you wake up, and whatever it's going to take to wake you up. Maybe you won't wake up. You know, billions of people don't wake up in one lifetime. It will take many myriad of lifetimes before they wake up. But when they do wake up, all of a sudden there's massive revelations, and you are just out there in a massively extended higher state of consciousness. That's just how it is, people. That's the fact. So I look at all these things, and I'm looking at it with a philosophical perspective. I'm looking at it from a psychoanalytical perspective. I'm looking at it from a spiritual perspective. I'm looking at it from a societal perspective. I'm looking at it from so many perspectives and seeing so many different things. And that's why I can just keep speaking forever. I could make videos all day long. My mind doesn't stop. But that doesn't mean my mind's busy. It's not busy. It's absolutely chilled and absolutely calm. And in many of these videos, I'm telling you, I feel absolutely calm. There's a beautiful stillness, there's a tranquility, yes. And when, you know, people used to say to me when I'm ranting, "Oh, you're not awakened, you're not spiritual, nobody could be that angry." I'm not angry. I'm not angry. This isn't angry. This isn't angry. There's characters, there's spirits that are just expressing themselves. There's a whole bunch of spirits in here. I am legion, people. And the more we evolve, and the older our souls are, the more spirits like to come and join us on our socials, because they know it's going to be a fantastic excursion. Something for everyone. And that's what the Awake and Brave channel's about, isn't it? Something for everyone, people. The last video I put up is thinking about the great importance of the breath, because when we meditate and when we contemplate and when we are still, when we're absolutely still, and we realise just like now, you can't see I'm breathing, and when I'm in a deep meditation, it's almost like my body stops breathing. I have no awareness of my breathing, because it is absolutely minuscule, because the body doesn't appear to need any oxygen when it's in that absolute still state. It's not burning up anything. And so, if you took, let's say, 5 decent breaths like that, and then you went into a meditation, you wouldn't need to breathe more than. That's all you need to breathe, people. But that little bit like that, that's life. That is everything. Because without that, there's nothing. And that's why these words like inspiration and inspired and spirit, they come from the same root as to breathe. You see? How many people got that? 6 people got that. Even one person had to thumb it down because they just couldn't comprehend. It's just too wild for them. Yeah. Oh, people. So let me just surmise this. Let me just in a nutshell. What most people are doing is projecting. They have an amount of information within their minds. They have an enormous amount of programs. These programs are running constantly, and they are sending signals to the brain, and the ego is projecting them onto the world. and it's like, oh, there's fear there, there's something for me to take there, there's something for me to gain there, oh, there's nothing for me to gain over there. This is what's churning all the time. And so this is why, you know, many intellectuals say that we don't have any free will. Unconscious people don't have any free will, not in the slightest. Enlightened beings have free will. Now, outside of your projections, what you have to realize, if you are remotely conscious people, is that you have to come back in here, and you have to suppress, and you have to set aside all of these egoic programs, if at all possible. Some of you, over many years of meditation and many entheogen experiences, would have learned how to do this. Otherwise you probably wouldn't have. But what you do is you put the ego aside, and then you allow the higher self to run this ship, and you allow your consciousness to be downloaded by cosmic consciousness, because cosmic consciousness can't be downloaded if your ego is so powerful and buzzing. The gentle inspiration of cosmic consciousness cannot enter your mind, you see. So you have to set that aside, absolutely, and then you'll get the gentle flow of cosmic consciousness. Can you see what I'm saying, people? Can you hear me? Can you feel me? When you have that, then all of a sudden, when you look at something, you really look. When you listen, you really hear. When you feel, you really feel. And the world becomes very, very different. Massively nuanced. You will see 10,000 times more than the average automaton walking around in the street. So people, I'll leave you with that, because there's been a lot of information here. So the next time I upload a video, try to set all your ego and all your projections and all your biases aside, and ask yourself, what is the awakened brave saying? Don't even consider whether you agree with it, whether you don't agree with it, whether you like it, whether you like my shirt, or whether you think I look handsome or fucking vagabond. Don't think about any of that stuff. Maybe even don't look at the video. Just lie down and listen to the words. And tell me if you discover anything more. There's an interesting experiment for you to do. Close your eyes, put your headset on, get comfortable, maybe lie down till you're very relaxed. Turn off the bullshit and ask, what is the message that the Awakened Brave is giving us today?